The Quadrants by Rohan Fraser. Prologue. After dark, in a town where only ordinary things usually happened, a man stood with his back pressed flat against a tree, while an orange orb of fire hovered in front of his face. He had been caught off guard. An Ignis man lingered 20 feet back, his arm held out straight in command of the fireball. "Where's the woman?" he demanded. The woman watched on from behind some bushes. Darius had gone on ahead to act as a decoy to the tracker while she hid their infant. The people of the Quadrants had finally come for them, but they couldn't be allowed to know there was a baby too, and the woman would have been unable to fight while carrying it. "I told you, she's not here," Darius lied, sounding strained. "We went our separate ways. I haven't seen her for months." He brought his arm up to protect his face from the heat. "You've got one last chance, then I burn you." The man rumbled. "Tell me, where is she?" The fireball grew larger. Darius slid to his knees to get away from the flames. The woman's heart raced as she continued to watch, her mind foggy with panic. In a few moments her husband would be dead. With instinct taking over, she stepped quietly out from her hiding place and picked up a large rock. The object was the size of a bowling ball, but she was Terrace. For her, lifting it was easy. Without delay, she slung the thing with great force, sending it hurtling in the direction of the man like a bullet. The projectile struck him squarely in the back, and he was propelled forward several feet before his body slammed into the earth. The fireball went out. Darius sprang up, his eyes adjusting to the darkness, searching for his wife in the night. He caught sight of her. Moments later, they came together and were off, sprinting down the street to reclaim their child. "We need to leave town, now," Darius puffed as he ran beside her, trying to keep up. "If one of them was able to find us, more will come." "We don't know that," she replied. "I think we should stay here. I'm sick of running like animals, and the tracker might have come alone." "He's no threat now. A dead man can't talk." "Lila, be serious. We have to leave. Besides, how do we know that man's dead? If he's not, he will tell his people about us." "Excuse me? But did you miss my rock cracking his spine in two back there?" Her husband glanced at her as they passed beneath a streetlight. She raised her eyebrows at him. "Okay, fine. He did look pretty dead," he conceded. Being in the path of a rock thrown by Lila was like being hit by a truck, and few survived it. "Well, that's reason enough to get out of here. His friends will come looking for him sooner or later, even if he was alone. I don't know how he found us, but if he did—" I know. It's just that I've grown to like it here," Lila said weakly. "I've finally gotten to know some people, and I was hoping—" She didn't bother finishing her sentence. She knew he was right. The two of them had been in Baker's Ridge for 4 months. It was the longest they had remained in any one place since they had fled the Quadrants 2 years earlier. And although she had always known it wouldn't be permanent, the prospect of losing the life they had begun to build didn't hurt any less. When they arrived at the convenience store, Lila disappeared around the back to gather up their infant from where she had left it, still sleeping peacefully beside some trash cans, wrapped up tightly in its blankets. Soon, they were racing again along the sidewalk, but after a few minutes, Darius took hold of his wife's arm to slow her. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. She stopped in her tracks and turned to him, wide-eyed, pulling the baby in closer to her chest. There couldn't be more of them, she thought. Not yet. Not when they're out in the open like this, and not when they had their baby with them. "You go on ahead," Darius said in a low voice, glancing all around. "I'll lead them away and meet up with you in the forest when it's safe. If you see trackers, don't wait for me. Just keep running, as fast as you can. Do you hear me? Keep running, I'll find you." Lila moved at great speed along the deserted streets, trying to stick to the shadows. If the townspeople saw her moving at that pace, it would cause confusion, panic, and drawing their attention would only put them in danger too. In no time at all she had passed dozens of houses. Dim light was visible through their curtained windows, hinting at the families within, the ones leading normal lives. Lila felt a pang of jealousy. This was what she longed for. All at once, Lila caught movement from the corner of her eye. Was it them? Had they found her? Her hand flew automatically to the knives in her belt, and she drew one out as she came to a stop. Holding the baby tightly, her head snapped one way and then the other, her blade at the ready. Lila backed into the shadows beneath a low tree in someone's front garden. She continued to scan the dimly lit street. There was nothing there. She breathed out a sigh and after a few moments realized where she was. Her friend lived here. She and Janice had become close during the last long months of Lila's pregnancy and, unable to have children of her own, Janice had been almost as excited as Lila when the baby finally arrived. Another sound came. Lila jumped. It was nearer this time. There still seemed to be no one about, but it was too dark to tell for sure. Seconds later there was a flash of light from the direction she had just left Darius. Her hand shook as she raised her knife. The sound of a motorbike's engine speeding along a distant street made her sink further back into the shadows, but Darius had told her to run. Lila wondered if they would ever be safe again, if there would ever be a time when they were not being hunted. She clutched the bundle in her arms and kissed the soft hair that poked out the top of it. There was no way of knowing how far or for how long they would have to travel this time, but the Quadrants would kill them if they were caught. They had killed before and they would do it again. And carrying a baby while on the run was just crazy. It would put them all in danger. She looked down at the knife in her hand and then at her baby, tears beginning to gather in her eyes. Maybe it would be kinder just to kill the child, the thought flashed through her mind. If the people of the Quadrants got hold of them, death would be slow. The Ignis would burn them. The Aquas would drown them. Eventually, the heiress might use a knife, and the Terrace, her people, she didn't know what they might do. The price on their heads was too great. A short time later, puffing and shaking, Lila came to the forest at the end of the street. She crouched low in the shadows at the base of a tree, waiting, hoping her husband would turn up. A breeze blew, rustling the leaves overhead and making it difficult to distinguish other noises. The smell of damp soil permeated the air as she puffed quietly, trying to remain as soundless as she could. Just then, a trail of water glistening in the moonlight caught Lila's eye. She drew in a breath and jumped up. It moved fast, with purpose, flowing over the earth towards her. She stumbled backwards a few paces, trying to keep out of its way. She couldn't let it touch her. "Darius?" she whispered urgently. All at once the water came to a stop and began to pool at the base of the tree, and a moment later a watery shape of a man rose up out of it. When he was fully formed, her husband smiled at her. Lila let out a sigh. She was relieved, but equally as annoyed that he had approached her in that way. Darius was Aquas, and when liquefied, he was indistinguishable from any other person from his quadrant. It could have been a stranger come to kill her for all she knew. Darius gave a quick scan of the area, then glanced around at his wife. "Where's the baby?" he asked finally. "I didn't have any choice," she said, blinking back the tears, which began to fill her eyes and blur her vision. She couldn't look at him. She hadn't wanted to do it. "What do you mean?" Darius moved closer and took her by the shoulders, his expression quickly turning from concern to one of horror. "Lila," he said slowly, "what have you done?" Thanks for listening, and look out for Chapter 1 next week.